let's see what we got going on now. Well, this is looking better. We shall see though. All right. So, thank you all for your patience. I know you're not here yet, so I'm going to wait for a few minutes. Lovely. I did.
Wave your hand a little bit.
I already saw myself.
You're already looking incredibly clear.
Yes, I'm so much better.
I guess if we can just pull this off Facebook later.
That is my thought. Let's see if we can get this up and... Well, let's see if we got everybody else, though. With any luck, we got my ironing board.
No, we don't.
We don't. Let's check the sewing chain.
Sewing machine, yes.
Sewing machine, yes. Well, the sewing machine and the prep table are the two I really need. It's okay, we're here, guys. There's my sewing machine. See, that's how big the delay is.
It's like 30 40%. I need
Yeah,
to
it's
check.
30 to 45 seconds. No big deal. Husband is checking the ironing board. Oh, and we got ourselves moved. Sorry about the wiggle. Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Still don't have an
That's okay.
It's not okay.
No big deal. We will work. Apologies for the camera. Okay. So that camera's going to calm down. I try and slow it, but it's going to misbehave itself.
What?
Okay. So, I know I look a lot better already. So, my apologies for the downtime. And hello. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. So, now I can see myself. It looks a lot better. See, isn't that pretty? All right. So, looks like we don't have an ironing board anymore. Well, that's okay. It's just a camera. We do, however, as you may or may not have seen, have my sewing machine camera up and running. No big deal. We'll just work off the prep table and the sewing machine. So, as I was saying earlier, this is actually really easy to apply. It's so it's about 4 parts paint, and I'm using this acrylic paint, and about 1 part Elmer's glue. I want to do at least 2 coats, because otherwise it doesn't really have a good look to it, at least in my mind. As you may have seen just a few moments ago, if the cameras were behaving itself and you could see it, I have a little spot that I got a little icky on. Well, the nice thing is about this vinyl is if I just rub my finger across it and my fingernail across it, it'll peel straight off of the front of the vinyl. And that cleans up the front of my vinyl, just in case I made any oopses, which, you know, it's painting, it happens. Plus, if you want to leave it on there, you can be a little artistic, whatever works for you. So the point of the first layer of edge coat, or the paint that I have, is to seal off and inhibit the extra threads from going anywhere. So what I do is I paint along this edge, I get a good bubble of paint, and then I pull it down over this edge. That's why you see so much, scooch that out of the way a little bit, that's why you see so much excess paint on the back, is because I've pulled that down to keep these threads out of the way. So now I'm going to go in and do my second layer. So the whole point of the second layer is to get a little more thickness and a little more color onto that. So hopefully you can tell, this side over here has had 2 layers on it, but this side right here has not. So that's the difference between 2 coats and 1 coat. With any luck, you'll be able to tell. That's the same on this side as well. So if you can tell between the outsides and the inside here, that's the difference between 2 layers. As I've said before, if throughout this whole video or any other video I make, if you have questions about how to do this or what's going on about this, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to answer questions about this whole thing. I'm going to start the second coat. And my whole point of my second coat is to kind of gloop, technical term, some of this paint on the top layer. So the idea is to only have glue, paint, whatever, on the top edge. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Now, it doesn't always stay on the top edge. I've got some that's already kind of trying to pull down. The other thing I am trying to do is keeping, see, I'm not sure you can, but there are points where the paint goes loop, 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 loop. So that's what I keep doing when I go from front to back along this line, is I'm kind of evening that out so that later when it's all dry, ideally I don't have to go back with a razor blade and try and cut any more off to keep it at an even edge. And if I do, it's no big deal to me, but you know, the less work that you have to do, the easier life is, right? And there are points where I'll actually paint up to try and get it off of the back edge. Hello, hello. So thank you for letting me know that we were having technical issues with being able to see what was going on and having all of that synced up. We restarted, as you can tell. Seems to be going a lot better now. We did lose our ironing board camera for some reason. We've got a few gremlins in my computer where it only likes letting me have 1 camera or 2 cameras at any point in time. So that's infuriating. So I am taking, this is my second coat. The first coat, you do it very similar, except you pull that glue onto the back side, because that's the point of that coat, is to pull down any excess fibers that are kind of sticking up. Hi, Jules. Sorry, my cousin's name is Julie, and we call her Jules all the time. So I apologize if you're offended. Didn't mean it. So the point of the first coat is to pull the fibers down and make them behave themselves. Is there a first part to this? Is that glue or white paint or a mix? Okay, so thank you for asking. Very good point. So it is about 1 part glue, 1 part paint, and 4 parts glue. So as you can kind of see my little drawing over here in the corner, the black darkened part is the amount of paint, and then I put that much more glue on top of it, where the circle is. So 1 part paint and 4 parts glue. The thing you want to remember when you're mixing that is that you're really just trying to color the glue. You're not trying to do anything other than color the glue. That's the whole point of that. As you can see, I tried a few other colors and a few other ideas as far as, you know, which colors I wanted to use. And these are in my sample. I'm sorry, I'm talking with my paintbrush in my mouth. Ah! These are in my sample pictures that are on my website that I posted earlier. I will again post that website so you can see the whole walkthrough on my site. I'll post that at the end of this video, so you'll all have that if you want it later. But yes, that's how I do the edges of my vinyl pieces when I don't want a raw edge, which sometimes you do want a raw edge. It gives it a little more rustic, but this gives it a little more finished, and my personal style is towards the more finished. And all I'm doing right now is trying to make sure that that gloopy part is even as possible, that I didn't miss anything, that nothing doesn't have enough glue on it, and the places that are really heavy get evened out a bit. All right, that looks pretty good. So this is just water, so that's all that is. I'm gonna it's always fun trying to figure out how to make these, you know, sit them to dry. So I'm gonna put that off the edge. So a lot of times I'll do something like this. That isn't working. How did I do it yesterday? Oh, that was for the insides. So we're gonna have 40 minutes of me trying to figure out how to let that thing dry. There we go. So I'm gonna set that aside and kind of show you the other pieces that I've done this to already. This has everything except this inside layer isn't done all the way around. And that is my interior zip overlay. There's another interior zip overlay. This is my exterior zip overlay for the hidden pocket. And the one that we were just working on was the exterior zip overlay, the regular one. So that's the piece that we were working on just a minute ago. All right, so we will actually be attaching all of these, at least a couple of them, so we can go over it a few times. We'll be doing that in our next sew along. Let's see, we've got a couple more questions. Annabelle, have you tried the edge coat applicator thing? Is it easier than the paintbrush? Okay, so I've seen the edge coat applicator thing. I don't like the look and feel of it. I am absolutely certain that it works better for some people, but I did not see the point of spending the money and learning a new tool when I already knew my paintbrushes really well. But I've also worked with my paintbrushes for years. I mean, years. So I'm comfortable more with my paintbrush because I have a really good control with them, but everybody works differently. So the edge coat applicator thing might work well for you. Maybe if I did it in conjunction with somebody and they're like, oh, this is how you do it, this is why it works better, I'd give it a bit better shot, but it just doesn't work for me. It's not something that's working for me. So give it a try. If you have the spare cash and you want to go for it, by all means. I would never tell you you shouldn't, but it's not something that I find comfortable. And I'm very verbose, in case you can't tell. So I'm going to explain something for 16 hours and eventually you'll be like, okay, stop talking. All right, so does this hold up like edge coat? So Denise, I've used it on a few of my bags and I've never seen an inch of problem, but I've never intentionally put them in harm's way. Like I've never taken it out into a huge hurricane, rainstorm kind of situation, which is silly. But yeah, as far as I've ever seen, I've had zero problems with it. I mean, it's flaking off the front of here of the front, but I can't get it off the side where it's supposed to be applied without using a razor blade and some serious effort. Now, the reason it's flaking off the front is because of the texture of my vinyl and the force of the flaking of the force of the fingernail. I use a 000 paintbrush because that's first off, that's the smallest one I have, but that's also the one that has a good enough bristle count to be able to pull up a lot of paint on my brush and be able to kind of like, I take my brush and I run it along the edge of my leather or my vinyl so that all of the paint comes off on that one edge that we're trying to coat, and then I kind of smear it from side to side. That's what I do on the second coat. In the first coat, I do the same way of applying the paint, but then I pull it down along that back edge again to calm that any extra fibers that are hanging out like that. So that's the way I do that way. So that guy's gonna dry. I've got obviously a few more to do here before we actually do anything more interesting, and we are still not, there's my mouse. I have more questions and this thing does not scroll. Oh, well, thank you, Denise. I'm glad you're happy. I'm certainly happy. I love this technique, and I didn't realize what I'd run into until I mentioned it in one comment. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, what is that? Tell me all about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's not something that a lot of people do. I just ended up, I wanted to coat the edges of something one day and went, okay, what can I use? And I put this together. I do want to test out other glues. Like I have the Elmer's glue that I've done, but I want to do like jewel glue and see if that's, because this ends up feeling very, very hard. I mean, it still moves, but it feels very bristly and hard on the back. So if I was doing a leather on leather, I really wouldn't want that to feel like that, because there might be some kind of problem later. I doubt it, but you know, you never know. There's also the problem of I am not a machine. The edge coat applicator thing might make a smoother line than me and my paintbrush, because as you can kind of see, there's parts where you can see the white when you're just looking down on it, and you can just see the white like right there. And even when I pull it off the front, you can kind of see where it's extra thick in one spot and not in another. But I kind of like the way it looks, and that makes me happy. So, you know, everybody works differently. That's the fun part of this, right? So that is how I do the edge coat. Again, I will make sure that this video is available. It'll stay in Barb's Bags group under videos. We found that out last week. We found that out, so that was fantastic. I also saved them to my YouTube channel. And again, I said there's a walkthrough with pictures and everything else about, you know, my paint, my glue, the way I do things. And there's a tiny little video that kind of shows you an up close and one you can actually see, as opposed to a bigger overview of what's going on here. That is all on my website, and I'll make sure that that's posted at the bottom of this video. Excuse me, needed a little soda. So if you happen to think of a question that you have about this, and we're talking, you know, 2 weeks from now, feel free to ask. No big deal. You are always welcome to ask questions, even about something that we did last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever works for you. Perfectly fine, no big deal. We are going to move on. But if you have questions about this, again, feel free to ask. We're going to move on. We're going to get on page 14, which is where our straps start. Okay, give me a sec. I'm going to move all of this off of the prep table, and I'm going to bring in my strap information, or my straps. And we'll get all of this out of the way. Excuse me. Oh, and that's something I didn't show you on this time around. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to pull. This is why I love these plastic pallets. It's because it's really easy to pull the extra glue and paint off Probably easier if I get a pencil. Okay, so this is a pencil. This is a mechanical pencil without its lead visible. Maybe it isn't easier with a mechanical pencil. I did it really easy with the back of my paintbrush earlier. This is not the same paintbrush I used earlier. Ah, sure, it's gonna prove me wrong. I promise it's easy. There it goes. Yeah, it just literally popped off. And that's almost all of it. Like this piece just popped straight out. But the paint will pop straight off when you're done, if you let it dry, which is why I let all of these dry. See, and that one popped out quick and easy. So you don't have to clean up right away. It's actually easier if you don't, because it'll pop straight out. That's why I left that in there. I wasn't being lazy, I promise. This was my toothpicks that I used to mix the paint and the glue together. All right, so we're gonna let this guy dry, and then I'll finish up doing the second coat on this when we're off stream. Unless we get really, really ahead of ourselves and everybody wants to see it done again. All right, so we are up to straps. So it says make sure you have the following pieces in your cutting chart as well as the strap template. So let's get the strap template. Here's my journey bag, travel bag vinyl strap template. We also need front back strap pieces. Front back strap pieces. Oh, and I do need to cut more of this. Front back strap pieces, side strap holder pieces, side strap holder pieces. So front back strap, side strap holder pieces, 4 of these, 2 of those. Light pieces, 4 of them, 16 inches long, and I need to cut 2 more of those, so bad me, and 2 that are 4 inches long. All right, so whip this beautiful thing out, and we'll cut 2 more pieces out of this. If I can get my mouse to behave itself, it would be great. Watch, it likes it working on the fabric. Of course it does. Hey, Barb. There's my mechanical pencil. I find that mechanical pencils work really well on this stuff without an inch of problem. Ah, it's just a little too short. Darn. Oh well. We'll go over here. No big deal. I am fantastic, my love. Thank you for asking. He's checking to make sure the stream behaves itself because it had errored out earlier today. So I need that much. Right there. Ha-ha. It's the little things that make me happy. I'm a pro. Well, I'm here and I'm happy and we're having fun. If that makes me a pro, I'm okay with that. Pretty sure everyone else is too. All right, that second piece. See, I should know better. And I told everybody they had homework to do, and look at me. Didn't even get my own homework done. Tisk, tisk. All right. Everybody hear the background music okay? So that when I'm not actually talking, we don't have empty space. You hear my scissors go shink, 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 shink. Ah! See, that's how much of a pro I am. Whole thing almost flipped off the table. All right. Barb, that reminds me I need to get more woven fuse from you. When you are that far. Do, 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 do. I sound like my mom every time I do that, but sure as high heaven makes me smile. Okay, now we have the 4 pieces that are required. All right. Okay, on the wrong side of the exterior strap pieces, these guys, fuse a strip of this, starting at 1/2 inch from one end. Make sure to center in the middle, this way. What did I hit that made my, oh, I hit the cords. My camera all of a sudden wiggled. All right, so I'm gonna make sure I get 1/2 inch in. I love woven, oh gosh, yes. Woven fuse is amazing. I'm really glad I ran into it. All right, so 1/2 inch in on one side. So I'm gonna mark that. I've already marked the center line of all these guys. That's what that line in the middle is. Just because I'm really OCD, in case you can't tell. I'm gonna mark 1/2 inch on all this really quick. Just so we get that properly placed. All right, now again, I apologize that we don't have our iron behaving itself. Our iron camera misbehaved this afternoon and we could not get her up and running. So you're gonna have to trust me when I say that I iron this down and get that placed. Delicate balance there, making sure we get it ironed in, but you know, not wanting to mess up the vinyl. I find that constantly moving your iron makes things a lot easier. As long as you have some good dirty stuff. I do a little bit of like, you know how stay stitching works? I kind of do that. Like I tack it in. So I'll put this down at that 1/2 inch mark, and then I'll kind of like put the iron, like the edge of the ironing board iron like right here, just to make this piece hold still. And then I'll do it like again a little further down, and then especially since I have a little wrinkle right there, I'll kind of like smooth that out, make sure it's even from one side to the other, and I'll tack it there. And I'll smooth it out and I'll tack it there, and then I'll iron the whole thing. And I find that really, really works well for me because it makes sure that all the pieces are staying where they're supposed to. And then it's kind of like stay stitching. I don't really like stay stitching. Stay stitching drives me insane because I feel like it's always being redundant. Like it's doing the same thing over and over. Like if I did it once, why am I doing it a second time? Why did I have to do it the first time? It wasn't the first time enough. But this is like ironing, stay stitching, so it's so much faster. I tend to be a little more patient that way. And we almost got number 2 down. The other thing I do whenever I'm ironing something that doesn't necessarily like being ironed and kind of thinks about curling up on itself, which is what my vinyl is doing, is when I'm done ironing it, I'll flip it so that so this one I just finished. And it's kind of curling this way. Like it's curling this one. I was ironing this side, so it's kind of curling with these edges up. So it wants to do that. So when I'm done ironing that piece, I'll flip it the other side up and I'll leave it there. So its own weight is forcing it to not curl. So I got 2 more. And I'm just doing that little tacking ironing procedure. And I'm really glad that I put that center line in. The directions didn't say to, but I read the directions for this part because normally my bag making stream is all about doing bags off of simply not reading ahead, but doing the directions as they're written. And I love this pattern for that particular way, because there's no way I'm going to get confused. I read her directions and went, oh, this is so easy to understand. It was fantastic. It made me very, very, very happy. These are well-written directions. And hi, Kim. Welcome to the stream. You are welcome to watch anytime you so desire, and I happen to be here. In case no one was aware, which obviously you guys are that's done, we are doing sew-alongs about every other month, lifestyle permitting. Doing those and usually it's a pattern that everyone has voted on. This time around we're doing Journey Travel Bag by Maggie55, and it's an amazing pattern. It has everything that you are ever going to do. I mean, it's complicated, but not insanely so. It's very well written. It's got all the techniques that you're going to want to try on any bag, and it is so much fun. I've only read a third of it, but I've glanced through all the rest of it and did all my highlighting on things I need to like make sure I read and talk about. And I really like the way her patterns are written. All right. So that's the last one, and it's very, very hot. Oh, it's hot. Oh, it's hot. Oh, it's hot. Okay, and that's the first one I did. Okay, so 14A is done, I believe. Okay, on the wrong side of exterior strap pieces, use light starting at 1/2 inch from one end, making sure to center in the middle this way. The 1/2 end will become the bottom of the strap. Draw a line in the center down the length of the piece. On top of this, which I sort of can see, but not really. So we'll do another one as soon as I grab my ruler. Since I don't need measurements, I just need to do a point A to point B, since I've already done that. There we go. Ah. That's two. Sorry. And there's 3. Got a little off track there. And 4. All right, line down center. And thank you, Tammy. Happy with my work. It's the little things in life that make you happy. All right, draw a line in the center down the length of the piece on top. Place the strap template at the top of this piece and trace the shape onto the wrong side. Cut away the areas marked. All right, so what we're doing is we're putting this beautiful template, hopefully you can tell the difference between the two, on the top. And what we're doing is we're cutting this nifty shape into the vinyl. So her piece, her vinyl strap ends, both ends? I think so. Place the strap template at the top of this piece and trace the shape onto the wrong side. Okay, let's make sure we have the right top. The 1/2 inch end will become the bottom of the strap. So that's the bottom, so I have the wrong side. Thankfully, I'm drawing on the wrong side, so no one will see it. So we're gonna draw this cute little shape onto here. And we're gonna cut out this nifty little shape. I read this and I thought it was pure brilliance. So we're going to draw this cute little shape on all of our ends. ends. Hi, kitty. Yes, mommy loves you. Yes, mommy's talking to other people. I know, she's not in her sewing chair. You can't jump up in my lap. Life is so hard. Silly kitty. Okay, so we're gonna cut this part out. With any luck. My whiskers are up too. Wait, these aren't my fingers. Not bad. Get off my computer. Cat sitting on top of the fan of my computer. That's helpful. Yeah, let's crash my computer. That'd be lovely. Okay. So now we have this cute little shape cut out of our vinyl. That's one. Seriously considering getting my snips. Aha! There's two. So what we're doing is basically minimizing the bulk that's going to be on this side, and we're finishing off this edge very nicely when we get to the finishing part. And this is a really neat idea. And I don't blame her for not putting it as part of the pattern piece, because that's confusing. Hey, kitty, behave yourself. I think we might have our music a little bit too techno. Oh, and now we have sirens and bad things happening. Probably the wrong music here, guys. For the official answer, I did not know this song was being played. And let's see if we can change that really quick, because I don't like this one. Never play that one again. Okay, there's something a little more calm and chill. My apologies, everyone. That's better. Okay, so we have this cut out of the side that doesn't have a whole ton of the light. Trace the shape onto the wrong side, cut away the areas marked. Place a piece of 1/2 inch double-sided tape over the line from one end to the other. Peel off and start folding outer edges in one side at a time to the drawn line. So I'm curious, did my edges make the drawn line? Okay, good. All right, so we are literally putting double-sided tape over here and folding everything in. So I have a trick for you. Get out of there, kitty. I have a trick for you. One thing that I absolutely love, and I don't remember where in the world I got it, but this is my double-sided tape. I put a paper clip really close to the edge so that I don't ever lose that edge of my double-sided tape. The paper clip ends up getting a little bit double-sided tapey, but it also means I can actually get a hold of my double-sided tape at all times. Okay, let's see. So this double-sided tape goes all the way from one end to the other. So she has an amazing tool called a poly roller pictured in this, and that looks awesome. I do not have such a tool. I have fingers and a highlighter. Okay, so it's gonna go just a little bit short of the edge because I don't like having sticky stuff everywhere. I'm gonna toss this paper clip onto the edge so I don't lose it. Okay, so what I mean by fingers and a highlighter is, so I press it nice and hard and make sure that it's adhered. But one thing I've always found that if you take a highlighter, it'll give you a consistent pressure from one side to the other, unless of course you're working on something like tile. It'll give you a consistent pressure from right to left, and it'll force that adhering. So I don't really need a nifty roller tool. I have a highlighter, and I'm pretty sure you guys have highlighters too. Okay, so I'm going to start at this end and go that way because there's a nifty thing to do over here. If I can get the, see, I adhered it too well. It's my own dang fault. I swear my cat is going to get into something every time I stream. Yeah, she just jumped down from somewhere she's not supposed to be. There we go. Okay, so I don't want to remove the strip all the way down because that's going to be hard to deal with because I'll get something stuck on it because I'll be working here and I'll get my arm stuck on it. So I'm going to unroll it a little bit, and then I'm going to clip it there so it'll keep the plastic against the double-sided tape over here, but not over here. So I can start working over here. And when I get to, you know, here-ish, I can pull this down some more. All right, so fold both sides into center line. So one thing I do is I start and I make sure this edge matches this edge. So when I fold this side in, I make sure that this edge matches itself so it isn't like angled off. Because if it's angled off to begin with, then you've already started yourself and you've already started going in an angle. And that means you're going to have to fix something somewhere. And about every half inch, my right hand pushes it down, my left hand is following along, pushing down the rest of it. So my right hand is kind of tacking it down, and my left hand is making sure that all of the rest of it is pushed in. I'm going to pull this down a little bit further, and then I'm going to work on the other side too. I want to have like 4 or 5 inches, because that's just what works for me. And I apologize if I'm hovering over the project, but it is something that's kind of hard to see. Okay, so these guys are all folded into that center line. So I'm not really going to worry about folding this side into the center line. I'm just going to fold it to meet the other edge. But I am going to make sure that this stays straight. So I'm going to keep this one straight, and I'm going to make it match that center line. So I'm starting the adherence on the center line, and then I'm kind of pushing back. So I make sure that the center piece sticks where it should, and then everything else back from there. Because if I go too far over the center line or not far enough, I can kind of adjust it just before everything else gets stuck. All right, so I've got both sides up to here. When I've got the whole thing done, I'm going to take my handy highlighter and go over the whole thing again, because that's my roller tool. So I'm going to do about another third of it. Pull this guy out of the way. Again, I'm making sure that I pull this straight up to that edge, tacking with my right hand, and my left hand is kind of filling in the gap. And my right hand pulls it up. My left hand again makes sure everything behind it is tacked. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take this off the rest of the way. Now we've got a thing we're doing over here. I'm going to read about that thing first. Fold angled edges into the drawn line, forming a slight angle at the top. Both side edges should meet together. Use the poly roller. Okay, so we fold everything normally up to this notch. So let's do that. And what naturally happens is that notch pulls and makes an angle in. Oh, that's nifty. So what happens is we have regular strap, regular strap, regular strap, regular strap, and then at the end we get a little notched part. Now I'm right-handed. So I work best when I'm pulling or pushing. And because of my little weird table, I tend to move both project and angle that I'm working. And there we go. All but this edge is done. And okay, not roller perfect, but pretty crisp. Pretty proud of that. Torquing just a little bit. Nice. All right, one down, 3 more to go. I'm gonna put that on my prep table behind me. All right. Right, this is the side that I accidentally drew on and I didn't mean to. All right. That one's got sticky double-sided tape on it. I put that paper clip right along the edge of my double-sided tape to make sure that I don't lose the edge when it rolls back together. Put that guy out of the way. Make sure everything is smoothed down and adhered. And I kind of went a little bit off the edge there when I put my double-sided tape, so it's going to be more sticky on this side than there is on this side, but pretty sure it'll be okay. And I pull it off about 1/3 of the way down, clip it out of the way, oop, and apparently thwack my chair, and start folding inwards. Again, keeping this edge lined up when I fold it in. Right hand is going to tack it every 1/2 inch or so. Left hand is going to make sure everything else is squished down behind it. Smooth everybody out. Pull the other side in, making sure that this edge gets lined up even. and that not really worrying about bringing it into the line, but bringing it in to butt up against the other side's vinyl. All right. Go smooth after you get into the, oh man. See, I shouldn't have said it was going smooth. I should not have said that. So what happened is the paper backing to my double-sided tape ripped. So now I have to see if I can get the dang thing started again on this side, or if I'm going to start all the way on here and work backwards, which I don't like working backwards. Oh, anyone who does like working backwards. Aha! Success. Try again. Okay. Good so far. So as I'm going, I'm making tiny corrections. So if I didn't bring the vinyl in far enough one time, one tag, the next one I can bring it in and kind of smooth that other piece into the correct place. So you can always fix it. It's never something that you can't fix. You might have to try again, but you can always fix it. So I'm going to go up to the notch, and then basically the idea is you bring this edge into the center, and that will automatically make a narrower edge right there to your finished strap. And I messed up right there. It isn't too obvious. So that was a correction. So I didn't bring the vinyl in far enough here, so I tried to overcorrect and I didn't quite get it to behave. It's really close, and it's something that only I would notice, so I'm not too worried about it. And those edges are in. So I've got a little bit of a curl due to that mess up that I showed you a second ago. With any luck, we'll be able to make it calm the high heaven down. So I'll do some flattening. Since I don't have an awesome roller tool, kind of makes me want one, but again, I'm on a budget just like everybody else. Okay, so this one's curling up a little bit. So because it is at its formative stage, like it's brand new, it hasn't done anything yet, I can kind of twist it the opposite direction and encourage it to behave itself. And it's getting a little bit better. It's better. So I'm pulling it, kind of encouraging it to lay that way. There we go. See, that's a lot better. Not perfect, but better. A little bit of time sitting under a heavy item will fix that problem. Oh look, a heavy item. So those are sitting on my prep table, or on my ironing board, excuse me, which the camera is misbehaving. So we won't have an ironing board camera this time around, but that's okay. So number 3. I do so like this little notch idea. And since we're here, I'm just gonna knock out the rest of the glue part at the same time. So for storage purposes, I'll put that paper clip a little bit further back and I'll stick it on a little bit better. And so I will store it like this on one of my thread hooks on my ironing board. All right, let's flatten these guys down a bit. So the purpose of this is to make sure that the double-sided glue, the double-sided tape sticks to the bottom layer, because we know it's sticking to the tape layer. And using a highlighter like this will give an even amount of pressure from side to side. That way you don't have like part that's stuck here, part that's stuck here. And then when you try and do the other folding in part, it isn't nearly as difficult. Plus, it's a lot easier to pull the tape off when it's already sticking to the bottom part. Again, keeping this side lined up. I fold into the center, making sure not to go over or I'm going to get things messed up. That's one side, side two, and I had a little correction right there, but it wasn't bad. Okay, and a lot of correction right there. A little bit better. Yeesh, that part misbehaved itself. There we go. So, if you're making this bag along with me, I know a couple of you have been kind enough to post your fabric choices on this Facebook, but if you haven't yet, I would love to see pictures of what you decided to use as your main fabric and your lining fabric, if you're doing vinyl or cork, or if you're doing an alternate version. I'd love to see what you guys have got going on this bag, because this is the one that you guys chose. So I'm doing this because you said we should do it. That and it's fun. It's an awesome pattern. If you have not looked at this pattern yet, you should. Like I said before, it's got everything that you would want to learn or try. Plus, you got me right here doing it with you. So if you have questions, we can figure it out together. If I don't know the answer, there's a host of other people in this chat group that probably do. Let the community help you build something. All right, let's flatten you. I still like working away from myself. That means I don't get this part down so flat. So as you may have noticed, prior to us doing this, this one is really twisting, but now it's barely doing any at all. And that I can probably fix by just untwisting it. Yeah, this one's pretty dang straight. Got a little bit of twist on it, but not by much. Since I have a heavy object on these already, a couple others, I will work on putting a heavy object on that one too. All right, one more. Then we can see what. Then we get to see what we're doing with the side strap holders. I suspect we're doing the same thing, but you never know. It's not like any of us have read the pattern ahead of time, right? Okay, come on now. There we go. So I'll expose about a third of it. Clip that out of the way. If it's something little, I won't use the clip, but because I don't want to get sticky all over the place. Make sure everything lines up before I squish it down, because pulling it off of this double-sided tape is really hard, at least for me. All right, so far so good. This one's behaving itself mostly. I really shouldn't have said that, right? I said that last time. And then my piece broke. There we go. Part the two. Pulling this side in to match the other. And just a little bit more to go. Then we can turn the page, everybody. We'll be on page 15. This is really a neat idea. I just really like this. This way that it pulls the fabric, makes that little point. Except that I'm getting sticky, so I'm being sloppy. And I'm worried because this is turning up already. And this is turning up, so something got twisted somewhere. That's okay. We'll fix it, won't we? There we go. So yeah, this guy's a little bit twisted. Let's see if we can make it calm down. That's looking better, isn't it? I'd say that's a lot better. So the reason this is important is because the flatter your strap is to begin with, the easier time you're going to have sewing it when we get to sewing. That's why I want to make sure all my straps lay flat whenever possible. Okay, we're done with that part. We are turning the page. So it says complete all 4 pieces and set aside until strap attachment on page 28. So we've got a little time on that one. All right, side strap holders. This looks really similar. Okay, on the wrong side of the exterior strap pieces, fuse this, making sure it is centered in the middle. Draw a line in the center length. Okay. Let's see, we've got that long and that long. So I need 1 inch in. On either side is where we will place the edges. I wonder why we only have 2. Oh, these are probably the side straps. I was trying to figure out why we have 4 of those straps and 2 of these. Well, they're for different straps, silly. All right, I'm gonna put this on here. It'll take only a moment. Again, I apologize for not having my ironing board table, or my ironing board camera behaving itself today. But when we restarted, we lost that camera, and I didn't want to go and be offline too long to try and discover why. So we just popped back up online. And again, whenever I iron something that's vinyl and wants to curve, and it's still hot, I lay it down flat, wrong side up, the side that I didn't iron up, so that it doesn't go curving in on me permanently. And again, if you're doing this with me, please be careful. Don't melt your awesome vinyls or your heavy fabrics. So if you're melting heavy fabrics, I'm a little more concerned about a few other things. All right, so these guys are gonna cool down. It's a little hot, just a little hot. Okay, draw a center line down them. Whenever possible, I use pencil. And since I know I can draw a nice pencil line with this, I will do so. Oh, that's still warm. All right. Place the strap template at both ends and trace shape into the wrong side, cutting away the areas marked. All right, so this guy gets to go on both sides this time around. This is just a genius idea, guys. I'm really glad I put it on this heavy plastic, because it makes, I couldn't imagine trying to do this with paper, a paper template. And you're really not cutting all that much off. It's just a little bit, but it makes such a big difference. Okay, we'll cut these guys out, and then we get to find out what we get to do next. So I'm trying out a new music service. This is music that is okay to put on the internet. So you know how some music gets copywritten and you can't play it on the internet without getting permission. Well, all of the artists that's completed these songs have given permission for this to be used online, so that we can save this video without any copyright issues. So I'm kind of excited. So that's why I didn't know what all these songs are, is because I don't. I know it's all non-words, so all instrumental. But other than that, we kind of got a mix going today. Before it was a little bit of hip hop. I'm not quite sure what I'd call this one, but I like it. What do you guys do? Now, we were talking about this last time. What do you guys listen to or use or do while you're sewing? I usually listen to either audiobooks or I listen to TV shows on Netflix. Somebody was talking about podcasts. What do you guys do when you're online? So I don't know the song, but I can pick up song themes fairly quickly and everything, so that's why I'm sitting here humming along to a song I don't know. kind of a nice chill to it, doesn't it? There we go. All right, now what do? Do it on both with right sides down. Draw a line across the folded edges at 2 inches up from the end. Oh, this is good. Oh, I have to do. I'll repeat step 15. So put the glue on. Or I need my double-sided tape. Thankfully, it's not very far away from me. And we'll cut this guy off. And that one. And we will put, as soon as I figure out where I put it down, where's my paper clip? Is it hiding? Yeah, it's stuck to my arm. Put the paper clip back in. Oh, Cindy, it's my pleasure. I'm having fun. I hope you are too. Well, thank you for saying thank you. So we'll smooth this down. Besides, it's fun. You guys are having fun. I'm having a blast. It means I actually get a project done instead of just cutting everything out and then looking at it for 3 months. Kind of, just a little bit of encouragement. I can get the paper backing off of the glue, we'd be good to go. Come on now. There we go. Sometimes that's so satisfying. All right, so instead of doing the sides, because the sides aren't going to line up the way that they should, I'm going to do this inside part, but I'm going to start at that notch. And it looks like that notch lines up just perfectly with the light. So we will line all of that up. And then do the side and bring the side straight into the center line. That is just so neat. I love physics. My dad used to say that all the time. There's physics in this. Can you tell he's an engineer? That into center line. And that tiny little end part. See, and that's the part that infuriates me when we do all of this and we're meticulous and careful and then everything is still twisted. Ah, well. Just means we need to find ways to make things work to our whims, I suppose. All right. Notch into center. There we go. This one's a little bit different. I don't have as far along a line to go, so I don't need to do the two-handed method. Just kind of do a two-finger, tack that in, pull that in. Because I know I'm going to push everything down again when I'm done, so I'm not too worried about making sure it's absolutely perfect as far as adherence, but I am making sure those two ends butt straight up against each other. That is very important. It's not the end of the world if they don't, but it's so much easier if they do. All right, So I've got those all behaving themselves with some reason. Flatten that side out. Flatten that side out, and it does calm down that curve. Stretches, maneuvers everything to be the way that it's supposed to be. Be flat, be flat, be flat. Not sharp. Music joke. Sorry, I'm a little silly today. Alright, so I'm going to put those under something heavy. Oh, and I lost my highlighter. How inconvenient. Look, mildly heavy things. That's going to leave it done. Yeah. Gotta find something else heavy. Oh, they fit under nicely with everything else that's sitting on the ironing board. Alright, get these straps out of the way. And let's see what else is next. I bet you we're going to need to do something with this. Yep, because there's more pictures. Alright, let's see what it says. With right sides together, right sides down. Draw a line across the folded edges at 2 inches up from the end on one end only for both pieces. Okay, that was mildly confusing. Let's try actually doing it while she reads it. So I do a lot of projects and things without reading the directions ahead of time. And that makes me a lot more of a critical thinker. And it also, I give feedback on the patterns that I do. And it also makes the pattern maker better because we're both sitting there looking at this going, what? Why didn't that make any sense? Okay, with right sides down, so right sides down, draw a line across the folded edges at 2 inches up from the end, on one end only of both pieces. Okay, so 2 inches up, draw a line. Oh, that doesn't look like a line, does it? I think I might have to be a line. Yep, it's gonna have to be 10. 2 inches up for one side. All right. Slide a D-ring onto both pieces. Add a small piece of double-sided tape to both ends. Let me go grab my D-rings. Okay, so they show the flat side up. So I will put my flat side up. And it's just a little too small. It doesn't easily move, but that's okay. Okay. Slide a D-ring onto both pieces. Add a small piece of double-sided tape to both ends. Now see, this is what happens when you put your double-sided tape away. It didn't say to put your double-sided tape away. I know better. So I need 4 tiny pieces of double-sided tape. Put one piece of double-sided tape, a small piece of double-sided tape to both ends. Okay, we should just do one part of the directions at a time. Because then we won't get ahead of ourselves. Doesn't that sound like a great idea? My mom would be so proud. And really kind of surprised that I did one thing at a time. So I was working with my husband this afternoon, and I was like, why did you stop? Because it stopped mid-sentence. He's like, why did you stop? I said, well, I'm doing a couple of things at the same time. He's like, so standard way that you live, standard operating procedure for you. I'm like, shush you, silly man. He's right. I don't tend to hold still. I don't like holding still. Holding still always feels so stiff. Now let me see if I can find my, there's my highlighter. Okay. I have highlighter. Will travel. Squish that down. All right. Peel paper off double-sided tape, folding the short end to the drawn line. Now fold the longer end to meet that line, encasing the D-ring. Oh, okay. So, the double-sided tape isn't sticking to the vinyl. I'll just see if I can make it behave itself. It's not sticking to the vinyl at all. Wow. Nothing wants to stick to this vinyl. My paint didn't want to stick to this vinyl. The inside, yeah, the outside, no. I'm seeing if I can just separate it like with brute force. There we go. That one did. Okay, so that one curves in. So this is a very soft and buttery vinyl. I don't like putting clips in something this soft because it'll leave a little bit of an imprint. So my intention is to pull these clips off before the end of the video or close to thereafter. Because again, I do not like leaving clips in there. Just because they're gonna leave a mark. And again, this one is not behaving either. So what I'm trying to do is separate the glue part from the backing and just force the sticky part to stay. This is just weird. Never run into this before. My double-sided tape is always stuck to stuff. And again, I haven't worked with this particular vinyl before, so to be fair, new experience all the way around. All right, that one finally pulled off. So this one folds into the 2-inch line as well. And I'm gonna put a couple of clips onto that end. And let's see, I think this keeps the D-ring. There we go. So I'm not going to leave these clips on forever, and I tend to find that my green clips are really, really hard, like really tightly wound, so I don't use those on things like this. All right. Let's see if these behaved. Oh, not really in this edges, not on the corners, but hey, this side did, and it started coming up, so there we go. So I brought that down to that 2-inch line. And I'm going to clip it down to make sure it stays there. Bring my D-ring up to the edge, because that's what it's pictured later. And I'm going to clip right next to the D-ring to kind of encourage it to get that fold there around the D-ring, so it gets used to having that particular shape. There's another one. Ah, no, don't fall over. There we go. couple of clips where the glue is, and a couple of clips at a fold to again encourage that fold, to encourage the fabric or the vinyl to keep that fold. There we go. All right. And I'm a clean as you go kind of person in cooking and in sewing and in everything else. So that's all done. Let's see if I did everything right. Encasing the G-ring. Set aside prepared side straps until side strap attachment on page 31. Shoulder straps. Now this technique is really, really cool because I read about this one in an entirely different pattern, and I saw that she was doing this this shoulder strap technique, and I love it. What I did was, so she has 2 different lengths of shoulder strap pieces, and I do not have an industrial sewing machine. I have a Bernina 830. See, I can't even remember my own sewing machine number. Yes, Bernina 830, but it's the new version, not the old mechanical. And I worry about it going through anything more than about 4 layers of vinyl. And I worry. I'm even worried about it going through these 4 layers of vinyl. So, plus whatever's behind that. So what I did was, she has 2 different lengths. There's a shorter one and there's one that's 1.5 inches longer. And the shorter end I have being fabric instead of vinyl, and the longer ones I have being my vinyl, because this ends up being a very large circle, and you put your D-rings in and then you fold the 2 layers to each other. So that means that my shoulder strap is going to have vinyl on one side and fabric on the other, and it's going to look amazing. That's why I cut it the way that I did before. So I'm going to set these guys aside, and I think I'm just going to clip the clip. So this says side strap holders, just so I don't forget which one they are. I mean, I'm pretty sure nothing else looks like them, but you never know. All right. That's crossbody strap. I didn't pull these fabric pieces out, so bear with me for a moment. Here's the fabric pieces. I had to find my vinyl. There they are. Okay. And I haven't cut my light either, so bad me. Very bad me. See, what are we gonna do with me? Can't get anything organized. If I can get this other eraser out of this cup, I can actually put everything in where it belongs. There we go. Okay, so I need oops, wrong side up. I think I'm going to cut it out this way. So my apologies for the delay. And of course, as soon as I start drawing, my pencil breaks, because that's the way things go. And my really awesome tape measure went downstairs for an entirely different project. So I don't have my really awesome tape measure where it's 1 on both sides. So it doesn't matter which side I use. There we go. Didn't take too long, now did it? All I have to do is cut it out. I'm really excited to see these bags that you guys make. Hoping that we have everything done by the time that Barb's retreat comes around so that I can use mine from all my sewing supplies. And pattern pieces and kind of the crowning item for my sewing machine. You know, I always have a hard time trying to consider roller cutting these. I mean, I'm sure it would be faster, but I always feel like I'd be wasting fabric or material somewhere. Whereas when I do it like this, I cut every piece out and I do it strategically so that everything behaves itself and like angles and stuff. All right, now that I'm actually prepared for today, on the wrong side of the full shoulder strap pieces, draw a line 1/2 inch from both ends. This sounds familiar, right? Of each strap. Okay, on wrong side of the full shoulder strap, 4 shoulder strap pieces. Draw a line 1/2 inch in from both ends of each strap. Well, that's easy enough. Half inch. Half inch. I kind of suspect for some reason that if I don't draw the 1/2 inch line all the way across, something bad is going to happen now. That may not be true, but my gut instinct is that it is. Half inch. Half inch, half inch. And I'm just making tiny little marks on these on the 2 sides. Half inch and half inch. Okay. Use the piece of light onto the longer piece In the center between the 1/2 inch drawn lines, draw a line down the center of both pieces. Do this on both sets of straps. Okay, so light goes onto the vinyl pieces. And keep it in the middle, between the 1/2 inch lines. All right, be back in just a moment, everybody. Since you cannot see my ironing board, you cannot see what I'm doing. I am hiding my ironing board. Moo-hoo, ha ha ha. I'm just being silly. Starting a 1/2 inch in. Again, like I said earlier, I kind of tend to like stay stitch or quote unquote the light. Like I'll put the ironing board on it just a little, iron on it just a little bit to kind of tack it in various places all the way down. Actually, I cut this one just a little bit long, so I'm going to snip off the end. There's maybe 1/8 of an inch long, but I'm pretty OCD, so. And then I will actually put the iron on it until it turns a little bit darker. The light turns just a tiny bit darker when it's fully adhered. Nice thing is it doesn't take very long. And you never ever ever let your iron hold still when you're working on vinyl, or well, you don't want to iron leather because that'll melt. Because it's kind of like burning skin, you know. But never ever ever let your iron hold still when you're working on vinyl. And then again, I turn it other way up. If I've got a particular spot that's misbehaving, that's kind of curved up a little bit, I'll put something heavy on it. And while that one is cooling, I'll work on the other one, keeping that in the middle, kind of tacking it a little bit as I go down. Make sure it doesn't move unexpectedly and get off course, especially when you're working on a spot where it's got a little bit of a bump, like it came folded, which is completely understandable. You never let that iron hold still. It's the fastest way to ruin your project with supplies. If your ironer's too hot, you can ruin it that way too. So many ways to ruin your projects if you're not careful. Okay. Okay, while these guys are cooling down a little bit, we'll draw lines down the center of these guys. Isn't this fabric pretty? I love that mix. I saw this fabric at Joann's and knew I had to have it. It's just too much fun. This is why I love see-through rulers when working with dimensions, and you have to draw a line down the middle. Okay. That's not particularly hard when I can see what the dimensions are. I kind of want to talk about the importance of cutting your fabric out square. So one thing I've noticed is the fastest way to make your straps twist, aside from stitching funny, is to cut your fabric pieces out not square. Like if this piece was doing more of a curve like that, yeah, you can still use it, but what's going to end up happening is this whole entire strap is going to start twisting and turning, and it'll never actually lay flat. So it'll be painfully uncomfortable, or at least fairly annoying. So that's something I recommend staying away from. And that's the same for the vinyl. If you end up having it twisted or curving a little bit, it's not going to end well. You didn't cut it out square, or straight rather. It's not going to end very well. Now if you didn't cut it out square and it's only a little bit off, that's easy to fix. But if there's enough of a bump in it, it's going to twist and turn and be uncomfortable. And you're just going to end up with a bad strap. There we go. All right. Lines down the center of both. Draw a line down the center of both. Do this on both sets. Stitch the short piece and the long piece together at one end using a 1/2 inch seam allowance trimmed to 1/4 inch. Does it ever feel like that's superfluous? Like you stitch it together at this one seam allowance and then you trim off half of it. I mean, what was the point? Why didn't I just stitch it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance? Sorry, that's one of my pet peeves. So I'm going to I clip almost everything together. I clip everything. You'll see these clips do everything. And it's really dumb because there's no reason to clip this. You can just stitch it easy, but stitch it together, trim it to 1/4 inch. Place a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape a 1/2 inch from the unsewn. Okay, now we're going to get complicated. So I'm going to stitch these babies. So let's flip over to my sewing machine. You guys get to see my sewing machine. Isn't she a happy little sewing machine? So this is a Bernina 830. I love Bernina. Absolute favorite sewing machine ever. Excuse me, needed a little drink. So my absolute favorite sewing machine ever. I am using a 4-inch or a 4 stitch length, and I haven't been using this sewing machine for a while because it was at the spa. So I like try and go to lift a pressure foot where I can't, and I haven't used this in forever. It's already threaded with heavier thread, and I can't see my seam allowances because I have my light turned off so that you guys can actually see my stitching. Okay, so it's that line. So whenever I stitch on vinyl, I have a tendency to start further in, back stitch, and then stitch forward again. So I don't have 3 layers of stitching, I just have 2, but I still have back stitching, so it's still secured. Beautiful. Awesome. So I'll back stitch a few stitches, stitch forward, back stitch a few stitches. All right. Back to my prep table, where I'll trim my seam allowance in half. There we go. So seam allowances are trimmed up. Place a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape. So let's get to 3 inches piece. So whenever I don't know or don't understand what the directions say, I take it one tiny bit at a time. So it says use a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape. So I'm going to just get a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape. And then I'm going to put it wherever it says, and then I'm going to do the next part because this is the easiest way to untangle directions. Okay, so here's my 3-inch piece of double-sided tape. Place a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape in 1/2 inch in from the unsewn ends, centering on the drawn line. On both sides. Okay. Okay, so she's basically saying put a 3-inch piece in on both sides and then put one piece all the way down. So she just needs to make us, she just wants us to break up the ends so that there's not a continuous piece. Okay, now that makes more sense. So I'm putting a 3-inch piece of double-sided tape on both sides, both the vinyl and my fabric side. 1, 2, 3. And since it isn't that big a deal, it doesn't look like it's a big deal if it's not exactly 3 inches. I'm kind of just fussy cutting it. Well, not fussy cutting it around. Has anyone else thought that fussy cutting is kind of a weird phrase for being so exact with something? Like fussy cutting to me always sounded like something that you weren't trying really hard on. Like you weren't being fussy about it. You weren't being particular. You were just kind of like, ah, that looks good. Why did I put my double-sided tape back? I put it away because I need to do a piece all the way down. And make sure my seam is open. That's what I was going to ask. I have a seam down there. What do you want me to do with it? Okay, so I'm going to leave like maybe 1/8 of an inch gap. And my paper clip is there, just less than helpful. There's a lot of double-sided tape going on here. All right, seam allowance open. So, have I mentioned I love these little clips? I got my hands on them and it was over. These things are like the most awesome sewing thing in the world. If you could have one sewing item to keep forever and ever and ever, mine would be these clips. I wonder what your guys' would be. Mine would be this, I mean, aside from, obviously having your sewing machine. And things along those lines. Like you would have a never-ending supply of this notion that isn't thread. That's cheating. I love this stuff. The clips. Double-sided tape is pretty dang awesome too. So I'm using these clips to keep that seam allowance open because that vinyl isn't used to being held back and folded backwards on itself, so it's a little confused. So I'll be using the double-sided tape and those clips to make sure it stays folded the right way. I swear I was going to run out of it. Nope, got a little bit left. Just a little bit left. There we go. Ta-da. I do have a mouse that works. There it is. absolutely. I thankfully haven't broken a clip yet, but I absolutely expect it to happen someday soon. I mean, you know, because I just jinxed myself. But I love these clips. They're just making me so happy. Okay, stop falling off the edge of the table. Before we do anything else, I want to make sure that this fabric, I just bumped I want to make sure that this tape is attached. So I want to make sure that it's flat and secure in its stickiness against the fabric. And the fabric is going to be easy, but the vinyl was not. There we go. That one's all sticky. A little bit of a workout here. So because of the way my table is and it has tiles on it, I always move it a little bit whenever I go over the next part, because sometimes I get something that's between these grooves, and when I slide over it the next time, I want to make sure that groove isn't there anymore. But that's just a technique that I need to deal with. You guys, I'm sure, don't have such an interesting prep table. Okay, we have double-sided tape everywhere. Peel paper off double-sided tape on the center strip only. Do not peel the paper off of the 3 inches. Folding over both long edges of the strap to the drawn line that we drew back in A. That's the 1/2 inch line from both ends of each strap. Well, how can I do that if my tape isn't undone? Okay, so do it as far as you can. Slide 2 D-rings onto the straps, clipping the ends together and sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That would be this end and the other end where the 3 inches are. Make sure your strap pieces are not twisted before you sew. That's a great idea. All right. So again, I'm not going to pull the whole thing off at one time because that would end badly. Actually, I really want to start right there because then I can match this seam to that seam. Maybe I will. Let me see if I can get in there. I kind of smoothed that back on okay. See, what I really want is to be able to match this edge with that edge. And it's only because I'm so dang OCD and this is going to be my bag. I guess I can undo the whole thing all the way down to there and then work out the opposite directions. I don't like exposing this much double-sided tape because I know I'm going to stick my arm to the whole thing, but I really want to make sure that this is done well. So I'm going to pull, see, I'm already doing it. I'm going to fold this end in and make sure that the straight line matches the straight line. And then I'm going to work my way left, doing exactly what I did before. Ideally, I'd go the whole way down, but I want to make sure I get that other side in too. Okay, so I got a little bit of it on both sides, so I'm going to clip that down so it doesn't start having thoughts. I see this side is already having thoughts. Stop that right now. That's why I didn't want to do it this way. Okay, so my problem is, and see, it just stuck to my arm. Told you. So my problem is my fabric wants to stick to the double-sided tape that's exposed. And my other problem is I want to finish this side because I don't like having a lot of double-sided tape exposed. So I'm making sure that this edge goes up to that line. And making sure everything adheres up to where I don't have any more sticky. Pushing it down, making sure everything behaves itself, and we'll do the other side. And see, it's already sticking in my hand again. There we go. Sure those edges meet up against each other. My right hand's my left hand is guiding it into position. My right hand is kind of smoothing it down because this is, again, I use different techniques when I'm doing a shorter piece versus a longer piece. All right, I'm gonna flatten out this side. And I just got my fingers all coated over with sticky. That's the way I roll. There we go. All right, now let's tackle this side. This is going to be a little bit harder because I have the ability to kind of wiggle this back and forth, and this one is just going to be stick it down or don't stick it down. It's either stuck there or it's not stuck there. Fabric's a little bit more finicky. And as odd as that sounds, it is true. So I'm going to do smaller sections at a time. Make sure I get it okay. One step at a time, right, people? So the reason I put that mug there is it's stopping everything from sliding off of the edge of my prep table. Almost there. And because I have actual straight lines on this thing, it's a little hard to fudge it. Like there's geometric patterns on here. So if I don't get everything straight, it's gonna look a little wonky. There we go. One that far. I'm going to leave these clips in, and I'm going to have them clipped at the very front edge where the two layers overlap, because that's going to be a pretty important spot. Because that's where all the layers are going to overlap, so that's where we're going to see any problems that might have arisen. All right. Let's try that again. All right. Fold that first one in. And then work down the line. Man, these are straps. I was excited to see this technique. I've done it on a couple other bags, and I've always liked the way it turns out. All right, that's that side. Let's get this side. And I'm just butting the two layers up against each other. Making sure they play well with each other. Smoothing it out when they aren't behaving themselves. Right there. Didn't come in far enough, so I had to back up a little bit, and backing up with vinyl is not always easy. There we go. We will flatten everything to within an inch of its life and try not to have messed up the sticky part that's on the fabric. And I'm moving my table. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm just excited, can you tell? We're getting some good work done on this project. All right, let's try the other side. Let's pull it down a little ways. So I have some interfacing that actually comes too far away from the fabric, like it overlaps the fabric. So that was part of my problem, was that instead of having a straight clear edge like I do over here, well, I have excess interfacing, and oh, is that fabric supposed to go all the way over there, or is it supposed to be here? And that's what I was dealing with on the last layer, so it was a little difficult to get to make it behave itself, but it made a little more sense once I got into a rhythm and decided how it should go. So I'm pretending that the excess interfacing that goes over the edge of the fabric isn't there, which is how it should be, because you're supposed to bring two layers of fabric together. So if there's any excess interfacing, it's just not. Almost done. Almost done. Because the way this strap comes together is really impressive. Like I said a couple of times before, I've always liked the way this one works. I just scratched my nose to the beat of the music. There we go. Nice thing is the fabric ones straighten and flatten out pretty quickly. I'm going to leave these guys right there. Okay, what is next? Slide 2 D-rings onto the strap, clipping the ends together and sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, let me go there and get the rest of my D-rings. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, probably easier to put them over the fabric end, right? So, 2 D-rings with the flat sides towards the inside. Yeah, you can turn them later, but it's easier if you don't have to turn them around. 2 D-rings, just to keep them in the right place. I put another clip on either side so they can't get away and they don't turn or twist. Makes my life a little easier. Clipping the ends together and sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance trimmed 1/4 inch. Make sure your strap pieces are not twisted before you sew. So, not twisted. Gonna turn right sides up, right sides up, right sides together. And I know that sounds very basic and very easy to understand, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to twist these dang things around. And it's infuriating to have to take it off. So, wrong side up, flip it over, right side up, right side up, right sides together. And again, I clip everything. It's favorite things. So I'm going to go sew these at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here we are again. So again, I'm going to start a little bit in from my edge to begin with. I'm going to go backwards, do a couple of stitches, stitch forward, stitch the end, stitch a few stitches back. And it's only like 3 or 4, plenty to lock it down. All right, that's 1. Here's 2. Start a few stitches in, back stitch, stitch forward, back stitch again. All right. Trim. I'm just looking at my stitches, making sure they're okay. Everything looks good. So trim that like a 1/4 inch. And we're on page 17, everybody. Peel paper off the remaining 3 inches of double-sided tape, folding the last of the long edges together. The strap will now be a full circle. So I'm actually going to fold this open and see if we can get that to stick first before I fold it in. And I did, and it's awesome. And I'm going to reiterate that it's going to get clips. Just had some around here, didn't I? I mean, I always have clips on hand, but so I'm folding straight lines into straight lines. I'm pulling the vinyl up onto the edge of the vinyl, and I'm apparently popping my clips off of my edges. There we go. And apparently I'm losing my highlighters again. There she is. Flatten everything out. There. Now we have one big circle. Okay, we'll set that one aside and do the same to the other one. And I think we're gonna get through our straps tonight. That means we can start on fronts tomorrow, next week. I'm not sure we're gonna have this all done in time for the retreat for me. That's okay. I might see if we can finish it up. We'll see. So I peeled that off and I folded this piece, the vinyl seam allowance, out onto the double-sided tape before I folded the two long edges into each other, because I want to make sure that seam still faces outward. And I'm doing the same for the fabric side, just for the fun of it. And then I'm folding that side in, making sure that the vinyl all lines up. The seam allowance lines up with the center. Pressing the vinyl down, making sure everybody behaves themselves. And putting the fabric side down as well. And there was a extra sticky part that did not behave itself. There we go. And folding the other side in. Ladies and gents, we are almost done. Look at that. All right, that part's done. Flatten it out a bit. Make sure we got a good flat part. There we go. That goes over there. We've got 2 circles. Okay. Everybody excited? We got circles. The double-sided hip will up and down. Okay. The strap will now be a full circle. On the shorter piece, that would be my fabric, where the raw edges meet together, place a strip of double-sided tape down the center on the wrong side. Turn the strap so the folded edges are facing each other, making sure the short side seam is 1/4 inch in from the end. Slide the D-rings to the ends, making sure the curve of the D-ring is enclosed in the strap. she has the double side, that's interesting. Okay, so the reason I'm confused right now is she has that the curve of the strap, the curve of the D-ring is going to be on the inside. Well, that's going to be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here. Huh. Fascinating. Okay, so this is going to get complicated and confusing. And you know what? We've got 15 more minutes of the stream. So I think I'm going to call it here because all this is going to do is it made me kind of get a little confused. So again, I'm going to take it one step at a time. As I said before, when I get confused, I just read one piece and I do that one step. Because you know what? Somebody has gone through this whole thing 16 million times, so they know what they're talking about. I'm going to take these extra clips off so the D-rings are no longer encased. Let's do a little bit. On the shorter piece where the raw edges meet together, that would be here. Place a strip of double-sided tape down the center on the wrong side. So on the short piece, put a piece of double-sided tape down the middle. Okay, a lot of double-sided tape. Strap on the short piece where the raw edges meet together. Place a strip of double-sided tape down the center on the wrong side. One tiny set of words at a time. And I'm going to run my rings all the way down too. Thankfully I have more, because that's the end of my supply, right there. Thankfully I bought another one. So when you run out of double-sided tape and you don't want to have a break in the double-sided tape, if you peel the old piece back a little bit and start applying the new one, you'll have a continuous layer of double-sided tape. It's just going to be double layered a little bit right there, but you're going to have a continuous layer of sticky. So I'm going to take these little clips off for just a moment, run my rings to the other side, and put these clips back on. Because I'm trying to remind everything to stay together right there. Okay, so I'm going to run that all the way up to just a little bit before where all four of these layers meet. All right, we'll do that on the other side. So we will run these rings to the other side. Put my clips back on really quick so they keep everything squished together. And I'll start my double-sided tape just a little bit below where all four layers meet. A lot of double-sided tape in this one. I'm gonna have to get another roll. But you know what? It really is going to make all of these handles so much more sturdy. And all of my stuff is going to line up so nicely. And I'm going to have to de-sticky those scissors. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna make sure everything's flattened. I want to make sure that all of the sticky parts are behaving themselves. Put these back on a little bit better. All right, my clips are on. That one is all stickied and flattened. I'll flatten this guy out. I think just before we end the stream, we're going to go back and look at those. The other piece that we have that I put clips on to make sure that it folded correctly. We're going to see how that turned out. So I think we're going to stop these pieces here. And we are on step 23. Let's go back and look at my side strap holders. So my side strap holders are the ones that I put clips on everywhere because I was worried about layers behaving themselves. I'm going to take off all these clips and see how it handles itself. So understandably, this part is expanding, but that part doesn't have any sticky on it, so that makes sense. The problem was that where these two layers met, the double-sided tape wasn't sticking to the vinyl itself. I had a similar problem with the edge coat, that it wasn't sticking to the buttery soft vinyl side. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to place these under something heavy just to keep them reminded that they should stick to themselves, just in case. Keep those under something heavy. It won't be under this because this isn't all that heavy, but we'll keep these under something heavy to make sure they stay together on this part. We will pick up the finishing of these straps, which is page 17, and then we'll start into exterior front. We're only a few steps away, ladies and gents. I will see you in a week. Everyone have a great evening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now.